Sure, you can have a cat at home, but that doesn't mean your home is going to be safe from vermin and pests, especially rats. These pesky creatures are actually everywhere, and they're only getting worse. Since they live in the sewers, they've learned to eat everything and anything, even each other. Before we move on, subscribe to Forever Green channel and hit that bell icon so you never miss a single upload from us. Alright, without any more delay, here's how rats are turning into pure evil. Rats attacking cats and dogs. We used to think felines would take care of these mice and rats that got into our house. In fact, the Egyptians started using cats for this purpose exactly. But times have changed and so have rats. Now rats attack cats and dogs. Rats simply see domestic animals as a threat or an intruder. They'll do anything in their power to take them out. Rats aren't that well known for their ability to kill cats and dogs, but thanks to their size and quick movements that we've seen firsthand time after time again. Cats and dogs don't stand a chance when they're up against these pure evil rodents. It doesn't matter what the animal is, because if a rat sees any larger animal heading into their direction, they go all karate mode. In fact, you corner a rat, it won't get scared. It'll simply leap at you. New Zealand rat problem. One country that's struggling the most with the rat apocalypse is New Zealand. They don't have enough pesticides for this one. New Zealand has already started using rat poison on their whole country because if they don't, it will only be a matter of time before they're overrun by these creatures, just like all the other countries that are trying to fight them off. The worst part is that these pests are harming an already endangered native species called the kakapo. To save those precious birds, the government has employed the predator-free 2050 scheme with one goal: to kill all rats. Well, at least someone is taking a step forward before rats kill us all. Why are rats getting bigger and smarter? What about the fact that they're very smart vermin? Rats have been known to outsmart humans for years, but lately their intelligence has been soaring. In one experiment, scientists tested how many times rats had to hit a button before it gave them treats. Normally it takes them several tries before a rat will get it right. Some of these times, rodents figured out how hands work in less than 3 seconds. Even when they weren't rewarded with food after pushing the button for 28 straight hours, they kept trying and trying and trying. Rats are also capable of learning how to kill humans. In a study conducted at the University of Washington, rats were able to learn how to press a lever in order to activate a mechanism that would deliver an electric shock to a human volunteer's feet. The rats didn't just do this once either. They continued to press the lever even after they stopped receiving shocks. How rats are becoming immune to poison, plus bubonic plague rats? If you thought you could get rid of these pests with a few tablets of brodifacoum, that's not an option anymore. These rodents are suddenly immune to poison and rodenticide. It's all because of a correction in their genetic code. See how we didn't say mutation? That's because the time period is way too short for them to become resistant to these rodenticides. Instead, they already have a genetic mutation in their DNA that protects a few of them from any sort of poison. These genetically resistant rats then give birth, and mass immunity is introduced into their community. Practically, these super rats are unstoppable. Rats have been breeding with each other for over 50 years, which has caused the now defective gene to propagate throughout the rat population. If you're looking for signs that rats are plotting to take over the world, look no further than their social hierarchies. A common rat has a social structure similar to that of a human. One alpha male who dominates the female population and takes care of his friends while everybody else is left in the cold. If this sounds surprisingly familiar, well, it should be. This is how most animals operate in order to make sure they have strong genes passed on through generations. But why stop at animals? People do exactly this by marrying people with desirable traits instead of waiting around for somebody they actually love, just like what dominant males do in rat societies when mating with all the females. You might not want to do that, but there are others who definitely do. It all started back when rats first jumped off the boat and became a part of a new land. They traveled on boats and cars and found homes everywhere humans lived. Nowhere was safe from them. Rats would always find ways into their homes, even if there wasn't an open door or window to be seen. People didn't know how smart they were, but as time went on, they learned fast. Back in those days, people would simply leave their doors open and uncovered. and when they consumed whatever ingredients they could find, and they died not knowing what hit them. People thought that this was all there was to it, but as the population grew and higher, so did the intelligence of these small creatures. Rats drink blood. Another disturbing fact about rats is their lust for blood. It's been documented for over 100 years, but it still isn't fully understood or proven by science. It was described as rat attacks in the early 1900s through the 1960s, with thousands of victims throughout the world at that time. However, these attacks stopped during the 60s and 70s, and there was no scientific study performed until 30 years later in 2002. The study didn't find any scientific explanation, so the mystery is still unsolved. Scientists believe that such behavior in rats can be triggered by negative emotions like rage and anger. Basically, the only way to keep your blood safe from rat attacks is to stay positive. Rats are out for revenge now. It's only a matter of time until they start attacking everyone all over again. If you think about it, there are reports about people getting bitten by rats these days. And every day, more and more aggressive rat attacks are being reported. They say that positive thoughts can reduce stress levels. This could be bad news because humans will become even more stressed once they realize that rats can turn into pure evil. What's even more disturbing is that rats may be able to transmit their evil ways to humans. In 2000, scientists discovered that a virus known as the Bornavirus can be found in humans. This virus has been associated with the development of schizophrenia and depression, but there's no direct evidence linking it to these diseases. African crested rat. Regular brown, black rats and New York City rats are bad enough that we didn't need a new poisonous species. A new rat has been discovered in Africa, and it's even bigger than a whippet dog. This species of rat can actually spray toxins that land on the skin and burn. It also possesses sharp claws that will rip through human skin like butter. This species of rat can climb trees with incredible agility and speed and jump from tree branch to tree branch effortlessly and quickly with ease. These things are also found in packs, but this particular species is not yet known if it's sociable with other species or if it's feral. The African crested rat will most likely dominate all other species of rats soon because of their size, strength, and aggressiveness. You can already tell who won this battle of the species. As for their fuzzy fur, it has a weird sponge-like texture that helps in absorbing poison. Making poison is a harder task than it is to obtain from another source such as plants or insects. A team of researchers reported in 2011 that these crested rats create their own poison by eating leaves of the poison arrow tree. It has enough toxins to kill an adult elephant. And to the scientists' surprise, the rats chewed up the bark, mixed it with saliva, and coated itself in the horrendous mixture. Since they were barely seen before, the researchers thought they would be solitary beings who spend their days hidden away from the world. But when their cages were kept together, they would often make weird vocalizations at each other, trying to communicate. This showed that they probably live in pairs. Water rats. Another species is the water rat. This species is native to the Middle East and the Far East. They're bigger than the average rat, but smaller than other species that can be found in America, Australia, New Zealand, and etc. Water rats are known as black rats and have a tail as long as their body. They are excellent swimmers and can stay underwater for up to 5 minutes at a time. They live near water sources such as rivers, lakes, and ponds and build their nest there too. These guys aren't so harmless either because they will chew through anything, including plastic and wiring. They've even been known to start electrical fires by chewing on cables. Rats are the second deadliest pest in the world. Second only to mosquitoes, rats are one of the deadliest pests on the planet. Almost everything about them spells danger to human health. From their droppings, urine, body, bite, and saliva, these guys ooze infestation and diseases all the way. For instance, they were found to be the main vehicle of transmission of the greatest plague to ever hit mankind, the Black Death, a fatal pandemic that killed about 75 to 200 million people globally between 1346 and 1353. The plague was caused by a bacterium called Yersinia pestis that was carried by black rats. we could say we're no longer in the Middle Ages and such an outbreak is unlikely. The plague could still be contracted through bites from infected rat fleas or direct contact with infected rats. Today, because of the similarities in our genes, we're prone to contract some rat diseases such as leptospirosis, Lassa fever, salmonellosis, typhus, and hemorrhagic fever with the renal syndrome, most of which can be fatal when it becomes complicated. In a few cases, pet rats have transmitted diseases to humans, like in the case of this young boy. The boy contracted a rat bite fever from the family pet rat, causing a swollen tongue, red dots all over his body, muscle and joint pain, and almost claimed his life. So you can't be too sure around these pet rats anymore. Rat genomes have undergone sequencing. After roughly 200 years of being tamed, bred, and adopted as science's favorite lab animal, the brown Norway rat has experienced significant genome sequencing, being only the third mammal after humans and mice to have its genetic plan read. On the bright side, researchers believe this feat will allow important human genes to be traced more quickly, for example, those related to cardiovascular behavior or disease, and will help speed up the creation of medicines for diseases. The research that brought about this discovery also proved that rats have been evolving faster than both humans and mice, with the regions evolving fastest being those that are associated with the rat's acute sense of smell and its use in detecting danger, choosing a mate, and marking territory. So, if you've ever wondered how rats have been able to become immune to rodent size, you have your answer. Rats in toilets. You may be used to having rats in the sewers, holes, under the floor, and whatnot, but these pesky creatures have found a new path to our homes, coming through one of the least expected channels in the home, the toilet. What could be more frightening than waking up to seeing a rat floating in your toilet bowl? Did I hear you say, how is this even possible? For one, rats are always looking for ways to make our lives miserable. They must have come up with this idea in one of their evil global meetings on how to infiltrate our homes. Secondly, since they already live in sewers and underground spaces, taking an adventure up our toilet pipes is too good an exploration to turn down. So how are they able to climb up the toilet pipes? Rats are equipped with sharp claws that enable them to climb through almost any vertical surface. Once in the toilet pipes, they now have the greatest test of making it through the last few feet of the narrow maze-like toilet pipes. But can they even make it through there? The underwater passage leaves no room for air, but of course, the rats always find a way around this. Their ribs are hinged at the spine, allowing them to effortlessly collapse. But how do they cope with all the water? What if someone flushes on their way up? Just like we told you about the water rats, all rats are pretty good swimmers, contrary to what many of us have been made to believe. They paddle with their back legs while they use their front legs to navigate, and their tails serve as a rudder. In addition, rats have developed incredible stamina and can tread water for over 3 days straight. A regular rat can hold their breath for 3 minutes. Their shocking swimming proficiency is the reason, which we talked about earlier, for their global colonization. Rats living in the roof. Just when you thought you'd covered every means for rats to infiltrate your house, from the ground and possibly toilet, some have decided to colonize the roof. Roof rats, as they are called, prefer to seek shelter in the upper parts of your home, like the attic or the ceiling. These rats are just as destructive as the Norway rats, but are similar and less noisy. You could have one in your house and not even know it unless you notice their droppings or your pets giving them away. They've adapted to being quieter and would avoid any confrontations with humans. These guys would eat anything from pet food to paper candle wax and anything their ever-growing ancestors find. Their incessant gnawing. Another evil fact these vermin perpetrate, which you would agree with, is gnawing on any and everything around the house. Rats only used to destroy food stuff, some old newspapers, wooden structures around the house, but these days you'd be terribly surprised to find that they've eaten up and destroyed what you least expected. But what could make them want to gnaw on almost everything in their path? Remember when I said that they have ever-growing teeth? Well, it turns out their incisors grow throughout their lives, hence their insatiable drive to chew. Scientists have also interestingly found that their incisors grow at an incredible rate, of about 4.5 to 5.5 inches a year. So what do they do to keep their length in check? They constantly chew through the hard surfaces. The more reason you shouldn't allow them to infest your home is that they'll weaken the structure or whatsoever they can chew on. In the United States alone, they've been responsible for economic damages worth over $19 billion. So exactly why are rats turning into pure evil? There's no definitive answer, but scientists believe it may be due to stress, overcrowding, or boredom. Rats are becoming cannibalistic. The pandemic brought about extremely unusual phenomena. Since everything was closed up for humans, the animals decided it was time for them to roam the streets. The same thing happened in the sewers too. During the pandemic, scientists found out about cannibalistic rats. Yes, you heard that right. Why have rats started to eat each other? What's causing them to become so aggressive? Scientists have been trying to answer these questions for years, and they still don't have a definitive answer. However, there are a few disturbing facts that suggest rats may be turning into pure evil. For starters, rats are cannibalistic. In the wild, rat cannibalism is usually caused by hunger or desperation. However, in captivity, rat cannibalism can also be triggered by stress or boredom. In one study, nearly 25% of all captive rats ate their cage mates at least once. Mother rats even gobble up their young ones. It's even believed that mother rats can tell if their young are flawed before they're born. This could explain why they eat them, but scientists aren't sure if this is true. Rats are also known for their aggressive behavior. Studies have shown that rats are more likely to attack each other when they're stressed or overcrowded. In one study, researchers placed 2 rats in a small enclosure and observed their behavior. The rats immediately began fighting, and the dominant rat killed the weaker rat. In 1968, a rat specialist observed that malnutrition caused these rodents to do all sorts of things. Rats that were malnourished were more likely to become cannibals, as well as to engage in other abnormal behaviors such as fighting and self-mutilation. Rats that were fighting over a single piece of food appeared to be more aggressive and would resort to cannibalism. If rats are willing to do all of this, then there's no doubt they would consider eating humans. But we'll talk about that in a while. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Forever Green for more. We'll see you in the next one, folks.